Sorry about that. I had to go answer my phone. But moving on, number 14, the Carolina Panthers. Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle out of Missouri. Carolina needs some help on their defensive line. They need help with their run defense, and Sheldon Richardson's a presence who can take care of that for them. Number 15, the New Orleans Saints. Xavier Rhodes, cornerback, Florida State. The Saints' defense was all around terrible last year on every level. And Xavier Rhodes, in my opinion, represents the best defensive player left. So I think they're just going to take the best defensive player there is. Number 16, the St. Louis Rams take Tavon Austin, wide receiver out of West Virginia. It's time for us to figure out who Sam Bradford is. Time for us to figure out how good he is. And the only way we're going to do that is if we give him enough weapons to actually succeed. Because right now he's not playing that well, but he doesn't have that much around him, so we don't know what he is yet. So it's time to give him some tools so we can figure out what he is. So Tavon Austin, probably the best wide receiver in this class. Number 17, Pittsburgh Steelers, Barkevious Mingo, the outside linebacker out of LSU to help replace James Harrison and maybe put some pressure on Lamar Woodley to play better this year after having a not very good 2012 season. Number 18, Dallas Cowboys, Jonathan Hankins, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Josh Brent's probably not going to be back. Who knows what's going to happen with Jay Ratliff, and the Cowboys' run defense really wasn't that good last year. They were run over quite a bit in quite a few of the games they played. So this is a great defensive tackle class, and I see quite a few teams exploiting that. Number 19, New York Giants, Alec Ogletree, inside linebacker out of Georgia. He's got some character issues, but I think the Giants need some help at linebacker, and I think Ogletree is a guy who would be a top 10 talent if it wasn't for his off-the-field problems, so maybe you take a chance here. Number 20, Chicago Bears, DJ Fluker, offensive tackle, Alabama. The Bears, they just need offensive line help in the worst way, and if they don't get it, then they're going to have to deal with a injured Jay Cutler every season. So it's time to just keep plugging away at offensive line picks until something works out. Number 21, Kenny Vaccaro, Texas, the safety, goes to the Cincinnati Bengals at 21. The Bengals lost both their starting safeties this year in free agency, I believe, and Vaccaro, this is an appropriate spot for him to go, in my opinion, and I think that it's a nice fit. Number 22, St. Louis Rams, again, take Jonathan Cooper, offensive guard, North Carolina. The Rams, their offensive line is obviously going to be a lot better with Jake Long, but they could use some help on the interior, and I think Jonathan Cooper would be a good way to build towards that. Number 23, the Minnesota Vikings take, wait for it, Monty Teo, inside linebacker, Notre Dame. The Vikings, I think they have the ability to take a chance here because they do have 2 first-round picks. And I looking at this, it just makes sense to me that they would go for a potential steal because, Monty Teo, his draft stock has done crazy things after the national championship game and after the off-season drama with him, but he might be a very good player, and he just had one bad game, and he had a rough off-season. Who knows? So it's a risk, but the Vikings could use an inside linebacker, and I think this is a decent fit. Number 24, Indianapolis Colts, Sylvester Williams, defensive tackle out of North Carolina, helped patch up a defense for Indianapolis that was among the worst in the league last year. And, basically just try to help them gear up to be as good as they were last year, because all indications are this team's going to drop off unless they fix some problems they have on their team. Number 25, Minnesota Vikings come around again. Cordarrelle Patterson, wide receiver out of Tennessee, help replace Percy Harvin, give Christian Ponder a real threat at the wide receiver position to, we need to figure out about Christian Ponder. We don't know what he is yet. He hasn't had enough of a chance to prove himself as a good pro quarterback, and a draft pick like Cordarrelle Patterson might help with that. Number 26, Green Bay Packers, Menelik Watson, offensive tackle out of Florida State. You know, Green Bay's offensive line was very spotty last year, and they've had a couple of significant. Obviously, Jeff Saturday retired, and I just think there's not much else the Packers can do other than work on their offensive line because we've seen how their entire offense can fall apart because of that. Number 27, Zach Ertz, tight end out of Stanford. Owen Daniels is getting older, and he gets injured a lot, and he's not I wouldn't call him a great player anymore. So I think Zach Ertz, with his incredible height and ability at the tight end position, is a going to be a real passing threat because that passing game gets a little stale when they only have Andre Johnson to go to, and Andre Johnson's getting older as well, but more on that later. 28, Denver Broncos, Demontre Moore, defensive end, Texas A&M. Appropriate spot for him, and obviously the Broncos just lost Elvis Dumervil, so they could have a hole there. Denver might sign Dwight Freeney, they might sign John Abraham, but still, I think this is a good fit, and I think they played together in college, Von Miller and Demontre Moore, or at least they went to the same university, so that's kind of fun. Number 29, New England Patriots, and this one kind of excites me. Washington hasn't had a first-round player since Jake Locker, and we haven't had that many first-round players lately, but I think it's going to happen this year. Desmond Trufant, cornerback out of Washington. I think he's going to go to the Patriots here. We don't totally know what they're going to do with their secondary yet. I don't know if they're going to keep Kyle Aaron's in or not. I don't know what they're going to do with some of their other players, but I don't think their secondary is great, and I think they could use some help there. Talib is staying, but it's a one-year deal, so he could be gone next year. I think this pick makes sense. Number 30, Atlanta Falcons, Jonathan Banks, cornerback, Mississippi State. There's a lot of flux in the Atlanta secondary. They have Brent Grimes, who was out all last year, and I don't think he's coming back. Asante Samuel, I heard he might be a salary cap cut. So they have some issues at cornerback in Atlanta, and I see them going Jonathan Banks with this pick, a guy who I thought had a chance to go in the top 10, but his stock just... So, that's not happening, but it could be a good pick. Number 31, San Francisco 49ers, Tyler Eifert, tight end out of Notre Dame. I think the 49ers would have loved to have gotten Zach Ertz if Houston lets him go, but failing that, I think they'll get another great tight end prospect to back up Vernon Davis and replace Delaney Walker. Tyler Eifert, I think he would be a good fit in what they're doing in San Francisco with their offense. Let them run multi-tight end sets and such. I think that one makes a lot of sense. And number 32, Baltimore Ravens. They could do so many things with this pick because they have a lot of problems. But I say Keenan Allen, the wide receiver out of California, to help replace, the production of Anquan Bolden. I don't know if they're going to lose Jacoby Jones or not, but that's a real possibility. So Keenan Allen, wide receiver out of California, is the last pick of the first round to the Baltimore Ravens, and that's my mock draft. Comment, let me know what you think. If something major happens in free agency, of course, I'll update the mock. I might even make a second round at some point, but, the second round, it's just like, who knows what's going to happen. So that's what I got. For my part, since the Seahawks don't have a first-round pick this year, I'm just going to hope that a good defensive tackle falls to our second-round pick. So you guys let me know what you think, and see you later.